town hall with some citizens of Pickens County. And to kick off the meeting, we're going to start with saying the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I do like to remind people that does not say I pledge allegiance to a democracy. It says a republic. There is a difference. Who would like to go first? We're going to have an open mic forum here and let anybody that would. Again? Okay.
Are we, so the only struggle is we're wanting to stay on topic with development. I do absolutely appreciate the struggle that you are having. Absolutely, I don't disagree with you.
Okay, I give you a minute to finish. You're welcome. You're welcome. I said open mic. That means everybody can speak.
Thank you. For real quick, if you can reach out to your local representatives and even to McMaster's and let him know that this is a very, very real deal. We are not asking for no liquor liability. We're asking for personal fault and percentage of fault. So that means if you go to a restaurant, be an adult. Hold yourself accountable. That goes with everything in life, not just drinking. So thank you. If you want to talk to me afterwards, I would love to. I have a QR code on my phone that will take you to our link tree. That will tell you all about our organization and anything else you want to know. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Now, to get back to the topic of growth and free speech, we all love free speech. Who would like to go? Oh, come on. Somebody's got to be first. Bonnie, come here, Bonnie. You're not bashful. You come up here and stand in front. This is Bonnie, my friend, Bonnie Hiltner. And I've never seen, I tell you what, anybody knows me knows I can talk. This girl out-talks me. And that's saying something.
Not sure that isn't a dubious compliment. There's just a couple of things that I've noticed in some meetings that I have attended regarding the development that is coming, whether we like it or not. One thing is these impact fees that they want to charge developers. People really need to understand that the developers will not be paying these impact fees. They're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. These fees will be passed on to every single home buyer to cover the developer's heinies for all of these rules that they're going to have to stick with. That's one thing. Another thing is the setback requirements. If you have the word community in the name of your development, certainly community should be really, really important to you. When it comes to building setbacks, if you can't park a couple of vehicles in your driveway, if your roads are not wide enough to park a few cars, how on earth are residents to become involved with their community, to have community gather into their neighborhoods when you can't park one or two cars in front of your house without blocking any emergency vehicles that may need to get in there? It's absolutely ridiculous. Setbacks are important. They're there for a reason, and they add to the flavor of a community. That's really all I wanted to say about it.
Thank you, Bonnie. Okay, I know okay. Alex Seda represents Pickens on the Pickens County Council. And any of the other elected officials here, if you'd like the microphone, you're welcome to speak too. Go right ahead. I think that one's on.
Is it on? Yeah, I think so. My first question is always what's going on and why. Right? There's two forms of sprawl. You got one of them, which was from Greenville. Originally, Greenville sprawled towards Greer, then down to Simpsonville, then up to Travelers Rest. Now it's sprawling out west towards Berea. And that's displacing people and then moving out to Pickens County. That's the first thing. The second thing is sprawl that you're not used to is people coming from blue states moving here, non-COVID restricted states moving here, city areas coming out to rural areas. The Northeast is dying and people are leaving and coming to these other areas. It's hurting the quality of life of the people here. I mean, that is the problem. Most of the leaders either are just not aware of that or they don't care because they're looking at the revenue. They want the money. And you need to ask every elected official, and I'll tell you, first and foremost, the quality of life of the people here is most important to me, not the people that may come next week or next month or next year. And as a result, that needs to change. Politicians need to see that. Instead of seeing revenue, like Easley's the poster child for this. They see revenue, they annex, they see money. Now, you need to get them to think about the quality of life of yourself, and that's a major change. You've got me, but it's going to take more than that. Restrictions all across the board need to be raised in the cities, in the counties, in every place. I did read your little DSO recommendation here. There's a couple of things you got to be aware of. Attainable housing. The county council has already talked about, and I've spoken against it, tiny homes as small as 600 square feet. That's insane. When somebody realizes they can't live in 600 square feet, their stuff is all over the lawn. And we don't have the enforcement to clean it up. And if you allow tiny home subdivisions, which is what's talked about, and I've argued against, you're going to have subdivisions like this. So minimum of 1,000 square feet, I support that. I agree. And if you cluster all these little tiny homes together, in 10 years, they're going to be your slums. You know that, the New York girl, she knows that. They had these wonderful ideas in the 60s of all these type homes of it's going to be for the working man, it's going to be for the nurse, it's this. Today, the working man or nurse won't even drive through those places during the day. It didn't work. So watch when they talk about affordable housing. County has also talked about making RVs permanent residents. It's insane. I've spoken against it. RVs, what's going to happen is somebody can't afford that $300,000 home. They're going to put the RV in the back, they're going to say it's for grandma, and they're going to rent it out to somebody else. And you're going to live next to that. Bad idea. No tiny homes, no RVs as permanent residents, 1,000 feet minimum, stick-built home. That should be your rule. The $10,000 impact fee, be careful. I'm neither for it or against it, but I can tell you, when you say to an elected official, for every house that's built, we're going to give you $10,000. In the back of their mind, they're going to lower the restrictions so we get more houses. Put a minimum lot size on it. That's what you need to do. That's the way to restrict them. Don't offer them money for more houses, because that's what you're doing. You don't really, it's going to backfire on you. So I'd be very careful about that. Open space, again, it's not my track where I would go. 50% open space sounds great. Where I live up on Highway 11, where I lived up there, there's plenty of land that you could buy. 50% of it's not developable. They'll get it cheap, they won't develop it, and then they'll cram the houses in the other 50%. Minimum lot size and setbacks need to be your focus. That's the only thing I have to add. If anybody has a question, I will answer it.
I would like to make a statement about the 1,000 square foot. That is what we had in mind on that. Absolutely.
Yeah,
We agree with you on the 1,000 foot. We
yeah.
were not talking about an 800 square foot home.
Those are very good.
They were
Great
not
ideas. So
isolated.
you and I are in agreement. I think you might have looked at the proposal, which was, I think, 600 square feet tiny home subdivisions. Now, that's insane. Now, you got a solution there, but watch the 10,000. I mean, if you want to charge the 10,000 feet after you do the minimum lot size, that's fine. They're just going to pass that on. I get what they're saying there. I'm not even thinking that. Minimum lot sizes, and that's, I think, will keep you out of trouble.
Setbacks are pretty big.
Yeah, they are.
It's going to be about a half acre if we get those setbacks.
Yeah. Well, where I live, up on Highway 11, I mean, I'd want a minimum lot size of an acre, at least. I mean,
Well,
people living on
makes
5
good
acres
sense
up
on
there,
Highway 11.
So once they bring water and sewer up there, that's going to just change everything. I mean, if you're allowed 8 houses per acre, which you are now with water and sewer, they'll do it everywhere. So you've got to cut that back. Where I'm at, up in my district.
Where we're talking about.
My focus is going to be my district, okay, first and foremost, which is the people I represent. They would cringe at 8 or 6 houses per acre. So I think we're going to need almost 2 zones. We're going to need something up on Highway 11 that is maybe an acre per house, and then maybe something down there is more tolerable. But that's the way I'm looking at it. But whatever it is now, it's too much. I mean, it's way too much. And if it's less restrictive in Anderson and Oconee, so be it. You know, I just think government just needs to better manage its money than being so money hungry. And there is an element in every council that says we need to have X number of houses per acre to break even. I heard it at the meeting the other night, or a few weeks ago. So
Well,
be careful.
And I would say that even though you do represent your district for the county, your decisions and what you say and how you advocate on county council, that affects the whole county. And thank you.
Thanks.
Got another question over here from Mr. John Fizio.
Hey, John.
Are you saying as far as the tiny homes are concerned, this is a proposal or is it already happening?
Well, no, we're really early in the DSO process. It's pretty early. We've just voted on a moratorium for 6 months, but there were proposals that the administration brought forward. I don't know if they went via the Planning Commission or not. They did. So when I saw that RVs could be a permanent resident, I argued against it, against another councilman. You know, and his argument was, you know, legitimate. My grandmother, such and such, but you know, unintended consequences. When people need money to make that payment, that RV's going in the backyard, they're going to rent it out. Trust me, I'm a landlord myself, and I run ads for places. 25 out of 30 people are not from here. So these rules, you got to be careful. You know, if you're thinking about the people from here, you know, this needs to be your focus.
Well, excuse me, the reason I ask is down Robinson Bridge Road off of 93, I just saw it 2 days ago. There's about 4 tiny homes that are set up on this off of that road that says tiny homes coming.
Yeah, and there's no regulation against
Yeah.
it right now. So his rule would stop that, and
Okay.
I support that. I like it.
Anybody else? Bear with us. I wait for the microphone.
If they make the RVs permanent dwellings, does that take the tax from 6% to 4%, or do you keep the
Well, the
second
state
home
the state
tax?
law is if it's your resident, it's 4%.
Right,
so
so
if you-
that
if you-
would reduce the
Yeah.
tax on that?
Sure, it would. Yeah,
Okay.
if you to claim it as your home and it's allowed as a permanent resident. I mean, I believe it should be a stick-built home. I'm very strict on that.
Okay, so my next question, that's it. Can the economic development not increase and account for the setbacks that we need for the homes and kind of make up for the tax that they claim that we need all of these high density to accommodate for services? So could you not have economic development and accommodate for that so that we have more setbacks?
You know, we have see, I disagree with how you're thinking. We have too much development now. That's the problem. So, I mean, I'm not concerned about development. I'm just not. We have too much. We have more than we can manage, more than we can deal with. Now, I just say put the restrictions on there to slow the development, and then we'll look at where we're at. And if the revenue isn't enough, I would just hire people that can better manage money. You know, I could do it in my sleep.
We went to the Planning Commission meeting that was at the Easley Library a couple weeks ago, and the fellow doing most of the speaking said something similar to what she just said there, talking about how much less per area services would cost in a high-density building area as opposed to a rural area. And I would like for him to explain to me, because that is totally opposite, of how much service one building, one home on a 60-acre farm is going to cost compared to 1,200 houses on that 60-acre property.
Yeah.
Something doesn't add up
See,
there.
I would imagine the biggest problem we have is, you know, in your tax bill, I think 76% of it is schools, you know. So, I mean, and most of the people coming here are seniors, so they're not even using most of what they're paying for. I mean, like I said, I'm just not in that space where I'm here to get revenue for this service. We have too much growth. I mean, the girl from New York, she'll tell you, it's like locusts. You don't know. It's coming. It's already seen. You're starting to see it. I've been talking about sprawl for 7 or 8 years now, and now it's really coming. It's like the perfect storm. So my concern is, you know, quality of life of people and slowing the growth we have so we can manage it. Now, if the county administrators, I mean, revenue is just growing through the roof. I think total revenue was up 12% in this last budget. There's plenty of money. I voted no because I thought they should have cut taxes for that. So, and there was very other things I didn't like about it, but there's plenty of revenue. They have plenty of money.
And like the lady from New York was saying, we came down here for the quality of life, for the rural aspect. We do not want all this development.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Thank you.
Anybody else? You don't have to. Anybody else? Oh, come on, Clay. I'm going to make you get up here in front of the people. Well, I'm not going to make you do anything, but, you know. No, I left a gun in the car.
You can just ask me nicely. So this is more for you guys, because I'm kind of anticipating questions that will come up at the next Planning Commission meeting. So looking at the impact fee and the setbacks, the numbers behind that, especially with the setbacks, where did you guys come up with those? And I'm not saying this is I don't like this. I like it. I'm trying to figure out, so somebody's going to say, well, that's too much, and I want you to
figure out basically like an acreage. It would be like, most of these lots would be about a half acre or so if you use those numbers.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so, you know, and again, we felt that was a reasonable amount, but again, that sort of calculated pretty close to that.
Yeah, and things like the front setback, we look, you know, I put it in one of the things, you know,
Three F-150s.
Three F-150s
Yeah.
back to back to back
Right.
would equal the front setback there because that's the most common vehicle sold
Yep.
in America, and it just seemed to make sense to, you know, to have that
As a reasonable number.
weird measuring
Yeah.
stick, but yeah.
Good deal.
Or at the very least, 2 F-150.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yes, Henry. No, bring yourself up here, Henry. Henry Wilson represents the Dacusville area on county council. And he is coming to the front of the room. Thank you, Henry.
You'll see how slow I walk. You can imagine how long it took me to get down to that creek to film that video. So let's just talk for a second about. Let's just talk for a second about how do we all get here to begin with? You know, not the folks from New York, but the rest of us. The cotton mills drew a lot of our families out of the mountains for opportunities. You know, a light bulb and indoor plumbing and whatnot. Cash money, you know, which they mostly turned into indentured servitude for a while. But it pulled most folks out of the mountains. A lot of folks stayed. The folks that stayed, you know, they kept their land. They did what it took to make money off the land, which is hard. It's hard to do, particularly in the topography that we have around here. So you start to see this, all these folks moved to the cities. You saw the opportunity to support all the cotton mills that we grew up, because we have a lot of moving waters, so they were powered by that. And so you see this incredible infrastructure to support the cotton industry, that when the cotton mills died, they moved into other economic opportunities, right? So you saw GE and Michelin come to town and lots of other growth. They started paying people more, you know, almost double the pay, generally speaking. And so the natural place that we started out at is folks who are very friendly to pursue an economic opportunity and doing manufacturing. So now we have a 100-year history of it, and we made this big, strong transition. That's attracting those folks that Alex talked about from other places. You do have older folks, but a lot of folks have just naturally migrated to here, because right now the South, the area that we traditionally consider the South, has as many industrial jobs as they have in the Midwest, where it used to be the industrial heartland. And we're going to continue to grow while those guys have, in some ways, economically stagnated. Same reason that drug our families out of the mountains, it's dragging other folks here. Because, you know, you just want to, you want to see opportunity and feed your family. I have a business that, is profit focused. And so, I want to make $1. And I have a lot of folks that depend on me from a family perspective. I look at local developers the same way as other developers. Some folks just naturally are greedier than others, but most folks will take advantage of whatever opportunities they have to make a profit within a certain market. So as a county councilman, we have a couple of responsibilities to try to better manage the growth that we're going to certainly get as the economic opportunity attracts folks. The thing that Alex said about the fees, the real question there is, are your property tax rates not enough if you're going to impose another tax like that? And I've always opposed the penny sales taxes for the reason, like in Anderson, as soon as they passed the penny sales tax for all these great reasons, you started seeing jumbotrons at the high schools. You started seeing, just because they got so much money coming from it, that they're just going to spend it. In our case, we've been fairly careful in the way that we've spent the money in the county to do things like fix roads and whatnot. If the property tax rates aren't set right or well or managed well, you can't afford all the growth. And so, but then when you start adding in $10,000 or $12,000 worth of upfront taxes, where's that money going to go? It's probably not going to go in places that you want it to go. It's going to, you're going to have a chunk here and a chunk there. It's not going to be dependable long-term income. And so the opportunity for it to be misspent is certainly high. The back end piece of that, other than the service fees for things that are very important like a water tap, the infrastructure associated with your sewer. I mean, those things are incredibly expensive. We're talking like $17 million for sewer systems. That's an incredible amount of money for a county our size. And then you add in the discussion about just the entire watershed can only handle like 4 times what we're using right now, like over in the central and the Clemson area. So there's going to be natural limits to what we can do with regards to just growth, because you're not going to have the ability within the natural systems that you have out there to absorb it. You're going to have to charge some money for that, because the infrastructure is going to just get continuously more expensive. And we're already having those kind of discussions, and those are 10, 15, 20, 30-year types of projects and that you have to be looking at. And we know we're going to have lots of growth. So when you guys are asking us, and this is just economics. I remember in like 16 or 17 when I was on the school board, started talking about raising taxes on folks. And there's a term in economics. I got this out of the economics book they used at the high school at the time, elasticity. And so housing is inelastic. You got to have it. That's it. You have to have housing. And in Pickens County, the average income for a family is $50,000 a year. So since the Great Depression, 2.5 to 3 times your income should be the max house you buy. That's $150,000 houses. There just aren't any. I talked to the real estate folks. They pulled all the information from the MLS. There's just not that many houses in that price range. That's the folks that are already here. The folks that are moving here are going to be competing for that as well. The reality of developers in an inelastic market is they can pass through all the costs. Right now, we're not building nearly as much as the demand. That's why the pricing is already high. So when you start adding costs to it, it flows right through to the end customer. It's the same way with rents. When you raise property taxes, 80 to 90% of it's going to go right to the end user. It's not going to be absorbed by the evil landlords, right? It's not going to be absorbed by the evil builder or whatnot. It's going to go right to the end customer. And right now in our county, $50,000 for a family is the average. So my concern when you start talking about $12,000 fees is you just added 10% more to the cost of a house that most folks in the county already can't afford. And when I say already can't afford, 47% of the folks in our county rent. Only 1 in 10, I'm going to do this right, 1 in 10 fingers can afford to buy the house they're living in when they're renting. So if we add 10 or 15% to it in a tax, it's going to get, who knows how it's spent, you're going to start pushing more and more people. You're going to be up to 60 to 65%. Never going to own a home. And the reality of owning a home is, in our society, there's no guarantees for medical care, there's no guarantees for anything, but if you buy your house and you pay it off, you've got equity in that. That's wealth. That's lifetime wealth that you convert at the time when you need the money the most and you can't make income. That's it. So owning a home is the greatest way to accumulate wealth. If everybody in our community, or 2/3 of the community, is renting, the rent profits are going to leave the community. If they're owning the home, the properties stay in the community, right? So the tension for me when we start talking about adding a lot of cost to the building houses, which we've already talked about and you guys had some good ideas, comes back to the 1,000 square foot. But the reality is nobody wants homeless people walking the streets. Nobody. So 50,000's there in the minimum, and we're already struggling to find those guys homes. So the reason why we're having this discussion about tiny homes is because you're going to need homes for folks in the lower economic strata. The reason why we're talking about trailers and then the RV thing is right now you have to move your RV every 6 months, and so we initially started out with moving it. Then the Planning Commission folks said, let's just make it permanent. There's going to be a middle ground that has to be accomplished before we get all this done. But the reality of it is folks are living in different conditions. They're living in different circumstances. They don't have money for homes. If you kick them out of the mobile home that they're living in or kick them out of the RV that they're living in and they're homeless, there's an incredible amount of cost associated with servicing those folks. So none of these solutions are going to be easy. They're going to have to be balanced. I don't want to add a lot more cost to the building a home because I know the developer's just not going to pay it. If we put rules on for setbacks and minimum lot sizes in rural areas and things like that, that's great. As you get closer to the cities where the services are at, we're going to have high density or higher density. That's going to be decisions made by the municipalities. The best places, well, you don't want it inside the cities, but where do you want it? Well, the crappy. Fair enough. I agree with that.
And the local municipalities answer to us.
They do, and let's be blunt. The folks that have paid attention to politics over the last decade and a half have mostly focused on county and school system. That's it. To get those folks to go to a combined utility meeting, unheard of. To get them to go to an Easley meeting, I mean, just never going to happen, right? And then those folks are accustomed to doing their work without a lot of pressure, and so you see what you're getting. I mean, Alex had a meeting in 2010 or 11 that he was the chairman of the school board. There's like 1,000 people there screaming at them. I mean, it was a recession. They were having trouble. The Easley guys are worried about 9 people coming in there and giving them a hard time for 30 minutes. It doesn't make any sense. That's the kind of thing that happens in a lack of accountability. Start going to their meetings, get involved with their campaigns. It's like 500 people. Neil, first time you ran for office, how many houses did you walk to? Listen, I lose 25 pounds every time I run for office. You know how many calories you got to burn to lose 25 pounds? It's work, right? The city, it's nothing to it. You can walk the houses in 3 weeks. 500 houses is nothing. So my point here is you can get involved and you may not want it or whatnot. The reality of it is the cities are going to have higher density because that's where generally the services are at. What Alex was talking about that the Planning Commission treads in the back, the reason they're saying that you want to have some higher density areas is so that you can have EMS folks that can show up. Because you have to have a lot more EMS folks if the mileage they travel per call is going to be greater, right? So it's already something we're struggling with. So it's just a balance of costs, it's just economics, but forget about the idea that the developer is going to lose profit. Because they're just going to pass it through. That's it. That's just the economics piece of it. I'll answer any questions you guys want.
You got any questions for Henry? Okay. Well,
But the problem we have on Sheriff Mill Road is they're bringing in $350,000 homes.
Agreed.
Okay, across the street from me, we built, well, it's going to be 4-bedroom, 3-bath. Well, the people in Habersham have 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and just within the last, I'd say 6 years is when we actually started turning a profit on our house. So if you build $350,000 homes across the street from me, you're talking about the wealth and the equity. Well, I don't have any anymore. So you're not considering my wealth. You're only considering what somebody else needs that doesn't live here yet.
Let's be honest. I'm talking about my kids. My son's in the back. I got him to come to the meeting tonight. I'm talking about my son. You know, his first income's not going to be $200,000. I'd like for him to be able to buy a house before he's 30. I'm talking about the people that are living here now. Folks are coming is growth that has to be managed, but just at the end of the day, we have to find a balance here is what I'm talking about. We had this discussion before. It's got to be a balance.
I'm trying to follow you here. And you said 2/3 of the people in Pickens County rent. Is that what you said?
47% of the people currently rent.
47. But then a minute ago you said 1 in 10 people own the homes.
No, I didn't. I said that 1 in 10 people that rent right now today can afford to buy the house that they're renting. Just 1 in 10. So they're choosing not to buy a house for whatever reason, but only 1 in 10 could afford the house that they're living in.
Okay. Well, and the thing about that is, I think that falls more into a national level because, I mean, our economics, which is not to focus on Pickens County right now. You know, our national system is in a mell of a hess. But anyway, and that's why you have inflation and high interest rates, and so that impacts everybody and it impacts home prices. But the other point that, if I understood you, and that's why I'm asking for clarifications, talking about, well, people want to come here. Well, it's the same thing as if your son or daughter comes to you and say, you know, I'd like to have a birthday party, and you tell your son or daughter, okay, well, you can have 5 or 10 friends and you can bring them over. Well, then all of a sudden your son or daughter brings 25 kids home to your house. That wasn't the parameters, and parameters have to be set. It's just like our ordinances, the UDSOs. And first, before I get into that, I want to apologize to anybody.
I don't know what the question is. I'm too fat to be standing here for 30 minutes.
I want to apologize to anybody that has come to an Easley City Council meeting, regardless of their residency. I'm appalled by the enforcement of that ordinance, and I want to apologize for that. So anyway. Oh, I'm Denise Davidson, and I'm City of Easley, Ward 2.
Perfect. So Neil had talked about at one of Dr. Lee's meetings that if you make houses, more expensive, you have to do that at the expense of somebody maybe not being able to buy a house. That was my point. And for me personally, as an elected official, disenfranchising folks in the lower income strata. I mean, I grew up dirt poor in the county.
I don't think, we're not
So
talking
I'm
about
trying to balance that out.
disenfranchising. The thing is, it's like anything else. I mean, you're on county council, I'm on city council. Rules are rules, and why are these rules being made? And are the rules being made for the people that already live here to try to maintain, as in our comprehensive plan, to maintain the established atmosphere of our communities? All of these developments that are coming here, these wham bam, thank you ma'am, developers that are coming in here overnight and building these homes, they have no commitment, no ties to the city of Easley or Pickens County, and I hear all the time, oh, well, I'm elected, I'm from the city of Easley. Well, great. Well, you're not doing a whole lot for the city of Easley. I mean, you look at our zoning ordinances. I made a motion last year to have a moratorium, and there was not one person on the city council that voted in favor of the moratorium to get all of our ducks in a row for our land development regulations, our zoning ordinances. Here again, they had a planning commission meeting last Monday night or Tuesday night, whichever night it was, and they didn't allow the public to speak. So I want everybody to know that you need to look at your elected officials. I'm included. If you have a question or a concern, to reach out to me. But this fall, seats 1, 3, and 5, Ward 1, 3, 5, and the mayor's seat are on the ballot this year. And because it's an off election year, if you're not happy with the decisions that are being made in the city and next year in the county, the people that make these decisions are the people that you need to hold accountable.
Well, and you're talking about, talking about affordable housing. I'm certainly not opposed to affordable housing. I'm not a mean person. I don't want people to be homeless, of course. But going back, you talking about birthday parties.
I didn't understand that analogy whatsoever.
Well, it's the idea that there have to be rules. And I would go a step further with that analogy. My little girl would like nothing better than the entire world than to have a huge birthday party at Eden Farms and let every person she's ever met in her entire life come ride the pony for 30 minutes. I can't do that. Nobody'd ever get a birthday party again. Nobody'd probably ever have a Christmas again. My kids might see someone go have a $400 birthday party. I swear I think skating rink birthday parties are over $200 and something now. I'm gonna spend $200 and something for a skating rink birthday party, even if I had it. Everybody can't have what everybody else has just because they want it. Everybody can't have, in a perfect la-la land, that'd be wonderful, but life doesn't work that way.
Can I add something to what you're saying?
Hey,
Yeah.
Rick,
Do you pick up what I'm putting down, Rick?
Here's my question for you. This is just a basic question, right? A teacher, $50,000 a year. A cop, 50 to 60. These are the folks I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, some guy that doesn't work, stays at home, wears Birkenstocks. I'm talking about the folks that are actually doing the work in the community. We're at the threshold here where if we add there's lots of things we can do, and these guys looked at that we don't have to add costs. I talked to developers. I talked to developers about tiny houses because lots of folks are talking about manufacturing tiny houses in our community. Everybody I talked to said 1,000 square foot apartments. That's where the things will start out at because nobody wants to buy 600 square foot because there's just not enough space when they can pay the same amount in rent for an apartment. So the economics of the situation we're currently living in is pushing folks to rent. And from what I heard you guys say, the idea of an entire section of your community always having to rent, never been able to work their way out of it. And I'm not talking about just the guy that's at McDonald's for 10 years too long. I'm talking about folks with real careers, firemen. Those folks right now are at the threshold of not being able to buy the home. So I have to vote. I got one vote on the council. I got to vote to do something that's balanced. So I'm just going to tell you, I don't think you're going to get everything, and nobody's going to be super happy with all of it.
I got one thing I want to throw in.
Anyway, go ahead, Rick.
Okay, Henry. I'm a blue collar as they come.
Truck driver, right?
Truck driver. I was a single parent, single income family. It was just me. That's the only money coming in the house, and I got a little baby I'm raising.
So demographically speaking, when you retired, you probably made $60,000 to $80,000 a year.
No.
No, you made less than that.
Oh, considerably.
All right, fair enough.
Considerably less. During that time, I was making like 15, 16 bucks an hour.
I'm talking about here recently, though. I mean,
Yeah,
15's
but
a lot
that's
in the 70s.
that's after years in a career. But building up to get, the point I'm trying to get to
Right.
is for me to buy a house 10 years ago. Right? Neil knows when I moved to Easley. We met soon after from Powdersville, just across the county line. I lived in a mobile home in a trailer park for 10 years and saved my money in a single wide trailer because I wanted a home. I was willing to work for it and save my money, and that's how I was able to realize the dream of home ownership and have some equity in a home.
Fair
Right?
enough.
So, and no, I didn't make $70,000, $80,000 a year. I was making, when I went to Benor Logistics, I started at $15 an hour, working my hiney off 10, 12 hours a day. That's how I got a house, by living cheap and saving my money and then buying it. I get what you're saying, but it's like, if you don't make $60,000 or $70,000 a year, you're never going to be able to buy a house? No. I didn't make that kind of money. I still don't live in a big mansion, but I've got a nice home in a nice neighborhood in Easley, and I was able to get it by delayed gratification and saving my money and working hard.
Well, here's the thing. The $2,000 trailer that I grew up in off of 183 was there until about 5 years ago. Weston grew up most of his life, even though I was doing really well, in a shotgun house, right, that I rebuilt. And when I was finally lucky enough to move out of it, my mother moved into it because she couldn't afford to live anywhere else. What I'm telling you is, and this is just the balance that I have to make, is closing out the opportunity to be able to accomplish that by creating a situation where the housing values have to be $350,000 or $400,000. It's impossible. So we have to do what these guys are talking about. That's what I'm going to look for. I personally don't care for the fees. It's unlikely I'll vote for anything more than $2,000 or $3,000 on the fees. And the reason for that is because it's going to get passed directly through, and there's no way to find out how that money is going to be spent once it comes in. I should have sat down when I came up here. Oh yeah, we had breakfast the other day.
I want to know, has anyone looked into the root problem as to why these people cannot afford houses? Is it a matter of not enough jobs available? What is Pickens County doing to try to bring more industry?
I'll tell you what we're trying to do to industry, and this is kind of important.
I could use help.
We could all use
There
help.
are no employees to be had right now.
I'll hire you. What do you do? Here's the thing. I pay a little bit more than everybody else in the industry that I'm in, which means I take home less money, and I don't have a big problem finding folks. I treat the folks good. We work 410s. It's a hard job. Most of the folks that work for me are not going to be able to buy a house anytime soon without a lot of saving, like you talked about. Right? I'm not talking about making it where everybody can have a house. You know, you're not owed anything. I'm just saying at $350,000, $400,000. I mean, as a manager at General Electric, I'd had a hard time buying that house, even at 3% interest. So I'm just trying. The point here is, for my purposes, is to be sensitive of it. If we add $12,000 to the price of every house, that's 10% on top of what these guys are talking about being obtainable.
So, I just wanted to clarify two points on what we were proposing and why. So, the reason that we proposed the fees as they are is because the size of the developments are so large. It's not just a few houses. It's like putting an entire new city of Liberty attached to Easley. And the immediacy of the needs that would arise. Now, as far as enforcing where the money gets spent, that's, kind of outside of our range of, but we would want it to get spent on things like the roads, schools, and things that have to be done right away. And in our proposal, the cost we estimated, these fees wouldn't even amount to them. We're only asking the developer to pay about a third. We realize they'll get passed through. We know that. We don't think we're sticking it to the developer. We think that the people that are buying the houses are coming from out of state. I know they'll have to foot the bill. They're not all just being born and raised here. But the reason we had the other attainable housing piece in there was because those houses are not to have that fee attached to them. They're not to have that any fee at all attached to that house, because we don't want that passed through to people who are trying to get those houses. So you know, that's the balance there. We still want there to be an affordable house, but there has to be a fee, because if not, the county is going to have to absorb that burden of cost, and that means all of us and the poor guy living in Norris or Katichi has higher taxes to pay for the things that have to be built right away. So we tried to find a balance there on, you know, on how to fix that.
And I appreciate your work on it. And Henry, thank you for coming up here and giving your perspective on all this. I appreciate your perspective. Yeah, and come on.
And we're already absorbing these costs right now. The target price on the houses for the obtainable housing was $150,000, which is what, you know, Henry was saying, you know, 3 times 50,000. So that was the target for the obtainable housing.
And 1,000 square feet at the current price per square foot comes out to about 1,000 square feet. I got a question on your proposal. I was talking to Alex a while ago. I was trying to make sure I understood. Is what you're saying is if you build a housing development and you've got like 200 or 300 houses in the development, like maybe 10% be the 1,000. I mean, it's not like a community over here just by itself.
Yeah, not all in one place, right? They should be throughout the community. And in fact, if we have these other setback restrictions, they may need to put smaller houses into corners of developments and not all in one place, because now you're going to be able to have a lot there that still meets the setback requirements by having a smaller footprinted house.
Right.
So
It improves upon the impervious ratio.
Right.
It allows for them to be more creative about where the lots are.
Right.
I heard it over there and I'm like,
sorry.
the speaker fooled me there for a second. Is there anybody else in the room that would like their turn up here? We're getting close to like the second hour, the end of the second hour, and I want to make sure, especially if any of you that didn't get to speak at Easley City Council at this last meeting, is there anything, in this video, David Jones is coming to the front. He represents Ward 4 in the city of Easley. I really do appreciate all these elected officials coming tonight and standing up here and talking to us about this.
Well, for those that didn't get to come to the Planning Commission, to the library, I think some of the people came. I'm not sure who. This is a quote to WYFF from Ken Roper. And this came straight from WYFF's website. So he says, one of the potentials is to look how we can protect the natural areas, and he's talking about the county. The more rural areas are encouraging the growth that we know is coming to go ahead and go towards the municipalities. Municipalities means the cities. So go ahead and go towards where the sewer infrastructure already is, where the road infrastructure already is. And I asked him, I mean, have you been on 123 in front of Sam's at 5 o'clock in the morning or at 5 o'clock in the afternoon when that line's 3 miles down the road? And it's just getting started, folks. It ain't even got going good. We just don't, this is the tip of the iceberg of what's coming. In a couple of years, it's going to get really bad. So I don't know where Mr. Roper gets all his information, but anyway, Mr. Roper says also if we can encourage growth in those areas instead of our more rural areas, we feel that that would be a huge step forward and make everyone have more peace of mind. So I don't know. I don't have more peace of mind living in the city where I'm at. So Ken Roper, I wish he were here. I mean, he says that millennials don't want grass to cut. They want small homes and affordable housing. We don't have affordable housing that's being built that I know of. Not there. Whispering Pines, $310,000, and they're just bordering the outside of Whispering Pines now, and they're just throwing them up like everywhere else. He says that the building is to be between 93 and Highway 123. So, and the municipals have all this stuff that he says that we can take care of all this traffic and all the sewer. The thing that I see is that if they can continue to expand the city limits, and there's a conflict of interest on the city council with that as well, for one of our guys. If they can tie into the city sewer system, then they can put more homes in the smaller areas, is the way I see it, because it's happening right behind my house. And I want you to know, take a look at the Alliance Pickens website. These are people who are working towards bringing jobs to Pickens County, which I'm all for. Industrial type jobs, I would say, would be better. But on their website, it states that they have these opportunity zones, and there's these opportunity zones. I don't know if it's a grant or what, but you can see it in there on that website, and it shows easily. And the thing it says in there, housing, which is probably going to be the most popular, and this is straight off of their website. These are people that we pay, that the state pays. I don't know exactly who pays them or what, but there's 3 of them, and I've talked to Ray Farley. He was the head of the guy, and he was a nice guy and everything, but they're trying to get more industrial type jobs, which I'm all for. Like I say, FN's coming to Liberty before too long, but in there is also a lot of opportunity zone for housing, which is going to be the most popular thing. So I just want you to know, this is Ken Roper, who's the county council administrator, I believe. Is that correct? Okay. So anyway, I don't know who made it to the Liberty or to the library a couple of weeks ago, but this is straight off the website from WYFF. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's, we got one more, Bonnie. Let's do her quick. We'll wrap it up. Come here. Come over here. I give her a hard time because we're friends.
I was just sitting here listening to everything and thinking about all of the high-density housing that has just been built, is in the process of being built, all those new houses that just went up off Saluda Dam, the huge apartment complex right behind the Walmart, the huge apartment complex that is going in behind Tractor Supply. And I see all of these allotments. I see all the clear cutting and all the signs for all of these new housing developments. And it just occurred to me, where are these people working? Are they working here? Are they local people? Or are they just trying to avoid living in Greenville and they want to come here because they think it's cheaper or better, or, well, it is better here. But if they work in Greenville, go live in Greenville. You want to find a rural place, go find one on the other side of Greenville. If you are not here to live and work and be a part of Pickens County, pick another place. And if somebody can tell me why all of these places are coming here and attracting people who don't live here, I'd love to hear the answer.
Okay. We're going to wrap this up. You got something else you want to add before we close up?
Just
No?
going to help with the wrap up.
Okay. We're going to wrap this up. I will remind you again that, yes, ma'am?
In reference to what she said, you know, you guys are fortunate that you live in Easley. You're fortunate that you've had this quality of life. And you ask why people are coming here. I left my home because after $10,000 in taxes for a tiny home, you couldn't live with a single income, okay? Neighborhoods that were like Easley, I came up in a neighborhood like Easley. All those neighborhoods are disappearing. People are worried. They're trying to raise their kids, and they're trying to raise them well and with some kind of standard and moral. That's why people are coming here. But you kill this area with overpopulation and no control over what's coming, and you can't even handle the people that are here already, you're headed for the same disaster that the rest of the world's already in.
And to put a point on that, to go back to the statistic I got from Jessica, the building permit applications increased tenfold in 1 year from what they had been, like 9,600 over 10 years, and then in 1 year we get 9,600. So this is not something that's not a figment of our imagination. It's not overreaction. It is a logical, thought-out response to a problem that's coming down the tracks, and we'd rather not get ran over by the train. You know, we need to do something about it before it gets completely out of hand. We don't want complete gridlock. We don't want the schools looking like sardine cans. We don't need to get to that point before we do something. Now is the time to act. And with that, I will remind you that you will be able to find these videos at pickenscountytownhall.com. You just go to the menu, drop-down menu, and go to events and click on YouTube, and you'll see all the YouTube event or the town halls that we've done over the years. You can actually see one with me and Neil arguing with one another some years ago, if you look deep enough in there. And I have a website, Pickens County Town Hall, on Facebook. Tell them the name of yours.
We are a Community Alliance for Sustainable Development. That you can just add a pickens.com to that, and that's our website. We're also on Facebook under the same name. I just want to add, if you are concerned about this, please, please, please write into your elected officials. I have had just the most wonderful response from each of them. They're excellent about responding. So if you care about it, please write into them with what's on your mind, and encourage others to do the same. That's really the big mission out of this. There is the sign up in the back if you want to put your name on it, and if you don't want to, if there are things you'd like to change, please come up here and talk to us about what you would disagree with or change, and why, and we would love to have a discussion with you about that.
Two last things I need to say. I enjoyed working with you, putting this together. Thank you.
And you as well.
And thank you to the United Wesleyan Church for allowing us to use their facilities here. It's really great people. They have accommodated town halls like this many, many times over the last, I don't know how many years. So thanks to the Wesleyan Church. And this will not be the last time we do this if it's needed. If we need to do this again, I think it's wonderful for us to get together outside of government and outside of a government building and come together as a community and talk about this stuff. So anyway, good night to you all. Be careful going home, and I really do appreciate you coming and participating.